On this two-part video, we're chatting about some of the lesser-known autistic traits you should definitely know. You're watching part 2 of the two-part video, and on this part 2 edition of lesser-known autistic traits, we're going to talk about fearlessness, motor skills challenges, and gastrointestinal problems. Let's go. Hey, I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. Yes, I'm autistic, clearly. And since my adult diagnosis, I've devoted my time to advocating for the autistic community. Now, I do that through my podcasts, my blogs, and these YouTube videos. And it's all with a view of raising the level of understanding and acceptance of autistic people. So, if that's something you'd be interested in learning more about, fantastic. I'd be delighted if you would consider subscribing to my YouTube channel by simply clicking that subscribe button and ringing the notifications bell. Not only will you never miss another video, but even more importantly, you will help me reach more people across the planet to improve the lives of not only autistic people, but people who have autistic people in their life. So it's a win-win. I'd appreciate it. You can also reach out to me on all my socials. Find the Orion Kelly page on Facebook. Check me out and hit me a follow. You can have a look at my stuff on Instagram, by simply following the Instagram page. I'm on Twitter, where I tweet, and I'm on TikTok, where I do stuff. Yeah, good sell. Enjoy. Now, I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but it's very important that you watch this video until the end, okay? Again, no pressure, but watch this video until the end. If you don't, you'll miss out. And I don't want you to miss out with what happens at the end of this video. You'll miss out on the end. Watch till the end. All right, so let's kick off part 2 of this two-part video on the lesser-known autistic traits you should definitely know. We're going to start with motor skills, or potentially more appropriately, motor skills challenges. And really, this can be broken down even further into kind of subcategories of motor skills, fine motor skills, and coordination. How many times I've been called unco or clumsy? Well, I'm not. I'm autistic. It's a trait. Let's discuss. So firstly, there is some recent studies that have shown autistic children have a harder time catching a ball. So the seemingly basic task of a ball being thrown at you and you catching it. Autistic kids have found completing that task successfully harder than non-autistic kids. And the research suggests one of the possible causes is that autistic kids find it harder to predict the ball's trajectory. I find it hard to say that word. To predict the ball's trajectory. Wow. So basically, it was reported in the study conducted with the autistic kids and the non-autistic kids and catching the ball, the non-autistic kids seemed to slow their hand velocity down right before making contact with the ball, which I guess makes sense when you think about it, so that someone throws you a ball, it's coming at you, and you could have, I'm not giving you a class, I'm autistic, and I don't know how to. 2 hands for beginners, that's about all I can give you. Where conversely, in the same study, the autistic kids seemed to speed up the velocity, basically launched their hands at the ball. So instead of slowing the hands down, the hands were launched at the ball. And as you can imagine, if you're trying to catch a ball and you launch your hands towards the ball right before it comes in contact with you, what's going to happen? Well, you're kind of going to collide with the ball, right? The ball's going to hit your fingers, hit your hands, bounce away. I mean, you're very rarely going to be able to catch it like that. So that's some of the insights from that particular piece of research with autistic kids and non-autistic kids and the seemingly basic skill of catching a ball. So although that's just one basic example, motor skills challenges, fine motor skills challenges, coordination challenges are another autism trait you might not have known about. For me, it's a lifelong thing. So I absolutely have struggled with motor skills and coordination and fine motor skills my whole life. I mean, I can remember back when I was a kid, I would always struggle for consistency in playing sport. And I guess it was probably because, sometimes I could be really good in the sport, and other times I would be really bad. So, Aussie examples, let's take cricket for example. So one day I might be able to bowl the ball beautifully and maybe get someone out. Another time they'd all be wides, meaning the ball wouldn't really hit the cricket pitch or go near where it needed to go. Or I might be batting and I might constantly swing and miss and get bowled out. Or another time I'd be just connecting with everything and hitting boundaries, 4s, 6s, right? But it was never consistent. And I guess now looking back in hindsight, it probably came down to focus, came down to concentration. It's just a different level of focus and concentration for an autistic person to get the motor skills and the fine motor skills and the coordination down pat. To rise to the level potentially of non-autistic people, neurotypical people, actually takes a lot of mental energy. For example, you're telling yourself, if you're trying to catch a ball, wait for it slow, ease it into the hands, as opposed to, don't force your hands into it, don't launch your hands into it at the last minute. Here it comes, softly, wait. It's a constant thing where other kids, they naturally just know, okay, well, slow the velocity down, catch the ball. I also think in my personal experience, reaction time is clearly pretty critical to motor skills and coordination. And that may be another reason why I struggle with these things, because as an autistic person, at times I can have a much longer, or to some degree, longer reaction time. And therefore, my motor skills or my coordination, well, they fail in that act or that moment, or however you want to put it. So you can be let down by the reaction time in addition to the challenges with the motor skills. A couple of quick examples: learning to ride a bike. I mean, it's hard for everyone, I get that. But for some autistic people, it might take until they're 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 12, maybe teenage years. Maybe they'll never learn to ride a bike. Learning to dance, that can be hard. It takes a lot of coordination. It takes a lot of motor skills, a lot of processing and response time and interacting with other people's movements. Musical instruments, it's about beat, right? And it's about the coordination. Like, for example, if you're drumming, your hands and your feet are doing different things. So I guess that's the same in a lot of instruments. Your hands are doing different things. Well, that can be really tricky. As an autistic person, it's like, well, I can't really do the two things at once. It's a disjointed, it's lagging. So motor skill challenges are absolutely a lesser known autistic trait that I can relate to. The next lesser known autistic trait you should definitely know is fearlessness. If you have an autistic person in your life, or you're autistic, well, this is something you probably know. Fearlessness is a trait of autistic people. You might have heard about it. You might think, hang on a second, that doesn't make any sense. I thought you always talk about being anxious. Okay, well, as a comorbidity, sure, I have anxiety. There are autistic people who have comorbidities of all kinds. But there's a difference between having anxiety and fearlessness. So let's talk about that. Now, you may have experienced this if you're a friend or a family member of an autistic child. Autistic people tend to wander off. And just so we're clear, in the non-autistic kind of neurotypical sense, wandering, I think, is kind of more like, I don't know, like a meandering, like a walking, just relaxing, right? Where in the autistic sense, wandering is more of like a broad term. That's a bit more like eloping or running away, changing your mind, or just ending up somewhere you didn't think you would go. For example, if an autistic child was at the beach and then out of nowhere, they just suddenly sprint in an opposite direction or towards the ocean, towards the water, that would be classed as autistic wandering. So as part of this fearlessness in autistic people, we have, I guess, this impulse to act now and think later. And a lot of times we probably don't even consider the consequences in the action. We just want to do it impulsively and we do it. So the experience can be that autistic people can, from time to time, run towards danger, go into danger, not flee, due to this, I guess, lack of perception that a danger even exists, that there is even a persisting danger at the time that you're walking towards it or hanging around in it. How can I be anxious, but then lack fear? Aren't I anxious of scary things? I don't know how to answer this question. A personal example. I kill or trap, depending on the type of spider, spiders by hand. I mean, if there's a spider crawling along the ground or running around, or it's gonna go near one of the kids, or my little dude's gonna try and eat it. Our little dude eats spiders if he needs to. Anyway, I'll just go and I'll either just clonk it with the fist or the palm, or maybe get a tissue, but it's by hand. Now, my wife thinks that's utterly ridiculous and quite dangerous, but it's never occurred to me that there's a fear that should be related there, or a danger. It's actually never, it doesn't make, it's still to this day, I think, well, it's just a spider. I'm just gonna get a tissue on my hand and just clonk it. I can trap and release or kill spiders by hand, but then I'm too anxious to answer the phone when it rings. So I guess that personal example is my way of kind of trying to answer your question. I can still be anxious and have anxiety, but also be fearless. I also think that fearlessness is connected to an autistic person's lack of impulse control, or a challenge to control impulses. I mean, I can't speak on behalf of every autistic person, but from my point of view, I'm impulsive. I mean, I struggle to control my impulses. I feel like I'm impulsive by nature. You might call it spontaneous, but for me, it's more than that. The next lesser known autistic trait you should definitely know about is a connection to animals and the outdoors, the environment, the planet, the earth. It's hard to explain, but I absolutely think it's a trait of an autistic person, this connection to animals and the environment. Take my 7-year-old autistic son, for example. He absolutely loves the outdoors, loves animals. At this point in his life, he thinks he wants to be a zoologist. I don't exactly know what that is. He doesn't either. In his mind, he thinks he will be a zoologist, as in he will be the next Steve Irwin. He will travel the world and he will be hanging out with animals, beautiful and dangerous, and I guess talking to people about, I don't even know what he thinks. I mean, he probably just thinks he's going to travel the world jumping on crocodiles. Oh, you have to ask him. The point is, his whole life already revolves around animals and the outdoors. It's also not uncommon for autistic girls to be especially connected to animals, more so than other people. Now, I can understand why that would be the case. And when we think about it, okay, so animals are pretty easy to connect with, right? They're not hard to interpret. Yeah, they're kind of an open book. Animals don't place unrealistic expectations on you. They're really easy to read. They love you unconditionally. So you can see why autistic people, autistic girls, or just autistic people in general, have a real connection to animals. You know where you stand and you can just be you. So if you have an autistic person in your life, don't shy away from that. Embrace that, because it's beneficial for everyone. I've always found peace outdoors, escaping to the environment. I've loved, as a kid, I loved just getting outside, playing some sport, going for bushwalks, riding my bike, bush bashing with the bike. There's many different things you can do as an adult. I really love, for some reason, the calming nature of the beach, the coast. I just love getting out and hearing nature, feeling nature. This is the kind of stuff, for some reason, it just brings me back. And I've actually made a video, you should check out if you haven't seen it, on the things that I do when I'm outside. It's all about getting out, as an autistic person, it's all about getting outside and just having fun, feeling the air, feeling the environment, feeling the sun. Just whatever you want to do, just do stuff. You don't have to do a workout routine. Just get out there and enjoy yourself. I find that it really helps me with burnout and overload and just general everyday well-being. So you should check out that video if you want more hints and tips on how you can get outside and improve the life of the autistic person in your life. This lesser known autistic trait that I want to discuss is really interesting, and I don't know if it's controversial or if it's questioned, but anyway, let's talk about it. Gastrointestinal problems as a lesser known autistic trait. I have first-hand experience with this trait, and so does my 7-year-old autistic son. I don't believe I've really ever gotten through a day without experiencing some level of gastrointestinal discomfort. In another recent study, I think it was around about 2014, it was found that autistic kids are 4 times more likely to experience gastrointestinal distress than non-autistic kids. 4 times more likely. The study also reported that autistic kids are 3 times more likely to experience diarrhea or constipation, and more than twice as likely to experience abdominal pain. So this is a real thing. This is a connection. This is a lesser known trait that I think should be probably one of the most widely known traits, because it's certainly experienced. And there's clearly ongoing debate amongst researchers, academics, professionals, practitioners, and all the above about the actual cause or link between gastrointestinal problems and autism. From my point of view, look, talking on a personal level, I think it's probably a combination. So I think 100% IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, I think I can experience these problems due to stress, anxiety, IBS. I also think I can experience it through eating the wrong foods. I try to follow the FODMAP. So there's certain foods I know could potentially trigger me to feel worse than others. I find too much dairy can constipate me or can give me abdominal pain. There's lots of different foods that I know can treat me badly, so I avoid them. So I think from my point of view, it's a combination, right? It could be IBS, it could be stress, it could be anxiety. And also it is the sheer nature of my autistic brain and the way it impacts my makeup, my biology, the way my body interacts with the world. There's a connection there. I'm not saying it's just being autistic, but the research shows there's a connection. And I think being autistic also lends you to other things like stress and anxiety. So regardless of which angle you go at, it all seems to come together and connect. Hey, if you haven't checked out part 1 of this video, so part 1 of the lesser known autistic traits you need to know, go and check it out now, or check out any of my videos. And I would absolutely love it if you'd consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. Click that subscribe button and ring the notifications bell so you never miss another video. And until the next video, thank you for watching.